Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for our live at 9 coaching sessions every Friday morning at 9. This is a 30-minute coaching call for anybody interested in attending. I'm going to dig right in because I have a ton of content that I want to cover today. If you're watching this live on Friday morning at 9, we do have our video team here and they're watching our chat box. So if you have questions or you need help on something specific, just put it into the dashboard on YouTube and we'll get your questions and I can answer them live. Also, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to our LAER training YouTube station. What's cool about subscribing to our station is every time we go live or add new content, you'll get a quick little reminder that there's some new stuff for you to listen to. So, I have 3 or 4 things that I want to cover. First of all, one of the things that I wanted to cover this morning is this afternoon, right next to our Chelmsford office at the Moonstones, the restaurant, Anthony Lamacchia has a training program that he's doing, his Crush It in Real Estate class. I posted it on Facebook the other day, telling people that Anthony has the class over there, and I got some agents of our agents who said, why are you promoting Anthony's stuff? He's a competitor. He's doing this as a recruiting event, blah, blah, blah. And what I said to these agents is that, number one, I love all my competitors. I have a special relationship with them. What I tell all of them is, yeah, we're going to recruit each other's agents, but I have a great deal of respect for Anthony, Jim D'Amico, Linda Okanowski, some of the awesome people that are the competition in our area. What I also said to this agent who asked me about why I was promoting Anthony's stuff is there's a great book called Delivering Happiness. Delivering Happiness is by Tony Hsieh. Tony Hsieh is the founder of Zappos. Zappos is this multi-billion-dollar shoe company, and they're known for like this incredible, awesome company culture. And so I had flown out to Zappos in Las Vegas a few years ago to check out their facility because I want to do at LAER what they're doing at Zappos. But it was pretty interesting. What they do is that they have this very intense onboarding process for new people that want to work there. Once somebody has gone through the entire onboarding process, they then present each new hire with a bonus check if they'd like to leave immediately. And the reason they do that is they said, you know what, we don't want somebody at our company that doesn't want to be here because they love our company. So I thought that was enticing, and I compare it to our industry a little bit because this is what I'll say. I think our company is a very different company than Century 21. I think Century 21 is different than Lamacchia Real Estate. I'm not saying one is better than any other. I just think they are all different. And what I said to an agent who was critiquing me on the fact that I shared Anthony's training program is if somebody goes to that training program, I want our agents to go because they're going to pick up something awesome. At the end of the day, they'll learn something cool. They'll pick up one little nugget that they can take into their business. If an agent happens to leave our company because they are enticed over to Lamacchia Real Estate because they attended a 2-hour training program, what my argument would be is that they never belonged at our company anyways. So it's kind of like that whole thing with Zappos, like not everybody belongs here. But I think that's also really important to talk about for your own business in multiple ways. Number one, consider whether you really want every customer that you're working with. Like, do you have an avatar? Like, have you built out what the model of your perfect customer would look like? And just because somebody wants to buy or sell a house in your marketplace, don't assume that they're a great customer for you. Just like I don't assume that every real estate agent in the world is a great fit for LAER Realty. That's just a fact. So be okay with a customer leaving you every once in a while. The other piece that I think is important that plays into this whole scenario is that there's a lot to learn from our competition. Do I occasionally recruit agents over from my competitors? Yes. Do they recruit agents away from me into their organizations? Yes. Many real estate companies are really terrible and mean and rude, the stuff they say about their competition. And what I'll say is I have great competition. All of my competitors in this marketplace are above board, ethical, they're good at what they do, and I learn a great deal from them. Now, if I had cut off all those relationships because occasionally an agent goes to their company rather than mine and I got upset, I think I have more to lose by burning the relationship with those brokers than I do in potentially losing one or two agents that goes to their company. The reason I bring all this up is because you guys are dealing with your competitors all day, every day, doing real estate transactions. Occasionally you're going to lose a listing to another real estate agent in your marketplace. There's two paths to take. You can be upset, you can be rude, you can cut that person off, defriend them on Facebook, never speak to them again, badmouth them, or you can wish them luck. Say, okay, maybe that customer wasn't meant for me. Wish them luck. Keep your relationship with that real estate agent, because good relationships will get you so much farther in life than like one real estate transaction. When you're doing a deal down the road and you're about to present an offer to that real estate agent, they're excited to work with you instead of having bad taste in their mouth because you got upset over losing a deal to them. So these are just some things I want people to think about as we go into the weekend and move forward in your careers. Like, there's so much more to gain by just being friendly, respectful, sharing information in your business than focusing just on one little real estate transaction. So let me dig into the agenda that I had for today. The first thing I said I was going to talk about today was mastery and becoming a master at your real estate business. And I had written a blog about this last year. There's a fable, like one of those, kind of like an Aesop fable. It's called Burden's Ass, and it's about a donkey. And the donkey is so tired and so hungry. And the master brings out a big thing of water and puts it on one side of the donkey. And then over on the other side of the barn, he puts a big thing of food. And the donkey is paralyzed and can't move because it's both hungry and thirsty, so it stands there like contemplating, should I go for the food or should I go for the water, and eventually dies of hunger and thirst because it does nothing. How I compare this to real estate is that there are a million ways to go out and grow your real estate business. You can go after Zillow leads or OpCity leads. You could go out and door knock or cold call or go after expired listings, build your database, Facebook marketing, ClickFunnels campaigns. There are a million different ways to build your business. And sometimes I believe real estate agents get so paralyzed by the number of options that what they do instead is they sit and scroll through Facebook and do none of it. They are paralyzed by all the options that are available. And so I want to encourage everyone, don't be Burden's ass. Like, do something. Pick one. Pick one thing that you're going to master for your business. What's really interesting about the real estate business is that if you can master one or two things really well, you can make a lot of money in this business. And I always refer back to Dan O'Connell. Dan is our highest producing sales agent, earns over $1 million a year. He doesn't do a yearly business plan. He doesn't have a database. Now, those are some of the things like I would say to an agent who wants to be successful, you should have a business plan, you should have a database, you should do mailings. Well, none of that is done by our top real estate agent. So what that suggests is that Dan does other things that he's really, really good at. And because he's become a master at those other things, he doesn't necessarily have to worry about the database and the business plan. And I bring those up specifically because people get paralyzed on that stuff. Like, I have agents that we started a business planning program in November, and the point was to have your business plan done by November so that you're up and running by January. And sometimes some of those agents are still working on their business plan. So they're still paralyzed, like not moving forward because they get stuck in the weeds. But think about it, like just become a master. Pick the one thing that you're going to be a master at this year. So maybe let's just say I'm going to own Op City leads. It's kind of like a free lead service. You have to pay referral fees on it. But say I'm going to be better than any other agent when those leads come through. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to text them, call them. I'm going to be on top of every lead. Or maybe it's Zillow leads. Or I have a couple of agents that are killing it right now by door knocking. When a new listing goes on the market, they door knock the entire neighborhood. And they say, I'm going to own door knocking. And I'm going to be better than any other real estate agent. I'm going to time block time every single day that I'm going to go out and door knock. And I'm telling you, there's a bunch of different ways. Maybe it's expired listings. Own expired listings. But don't get caught in the model of bird and ass where you really do nothing, because there's so many options to choose from. As well, what's almost equally as bad is to try to be good at all those things, because you're going to end up in the same spot that you can't be good right away at 10 different ways of getting business. So what I would say is pick the one thing that you're going to own, the one way that you're going to like kill it in real estate this year. And then you say, okay, every day I'm going to work for a little while to get better at this way of doing business. There's this Japanese business model. It's called Kaizen. And basically what the Kaizen business model is it says, just take one tiny little minute step forward every day in the thing that you want to be great at. Just tiny, tiny, tiny little steps. Because sometimes we get paralyzed because we see how far we have to go in order to become a master, that each day we don't take that little step because we keep planning for the day that we're going to take this gargantuan step forward and that we're going to get it all done. Instead, what the Kaizen business model says is take one tiny little step today to move yourself forward, to get to become a master in whatever it is. So what I'm encouraging the listeners and watchers to do today is to like really own something, like one way that you're going to get business. Own something before you go after something else. If it's Zillow leads, then own Zillow leads before you go after something else. Each year I do this in my own business as a broker owner. This year, my number one focus, it has been onboarding. I said we're going to be experts at onboarding our real estate agents. So I will say that we've come super long way just in the last 3 months on the onboarding process, to the point that now when new agents join, a box is shipped to their house. We have a whole onboarding guide with step-by-step instructions on what they should do to get onboarded each day. That matches with a daily drip campaign. So in other words, we just have a tight system. I still think we're not a master at onboarding. So I will say that every time we have our staff meetings and leadership meetings each month, the one thing I focus on is I say, what are we going to improve from last month on this onboarding? Because that is the process of Kaizen. What I'll tell you is, do we own it? Are we better than any other company in the whole world at onboarding right now? No, I think we're way far ahead of most companies. But what I'll tell you is that if we keep following and doing what we've been doing, which is moving forward a little bit every single month that we have our meetings. I'm going to tell you, we're going to own it by the end of the year. We're going to be better than any other company in the country when it comes to onboarding our agents in 12 months. Kaizen, taking tiny little steps forward, because it's much easier than trying to take a gargantuan step. And if you take those tiny little steps forward, what I tell you is that a year from now, you're going to look back and say, holy cow, how far have I come? Next thing I wanted to talk about is the Loop Easy Offer. If you go to LAER University, Keisha recorded like 6 super short, awesome Loop classes. We have been working at improving our Loop systems. And we've improved our templates. We've tried to streamline how our agents do business and how they get paid at our company. And one of the steps in that process has been improving the way we do Loop. So the Loop story I want to share with you today is I got a call a couple weeks ago by one of our real estate agents, and she was all upset because she had listed a property and a whole bunch of offers came through. Typical in this market, right? You list a property and you get tons of offers. And so she gathered up all of her offers, presented them all to the seller. They selected and accepted an offer. The next day, after the offer has already been accepted, going through her emails, she sees she missed an offer. Just missed it because she had so many offers. She missed one, and that offer was actually higher than the one they accepted. Scary, right? Because now we have to go to that seller and say, listen, there is another offer out there that we missed. So the good news is we handled it all with the seller, and the seller still chose, they were still very happy with the offer that they selected. But how do you prevent that from happening again? So I said to this agent, are you aware of the Easy Offer program through Loop? Basically what it is, and we have a quick like 5-minute video on LAER University under the Loop series on how to do this. It takes 5 minutes. You can create an Easy Offer link in Loop. And what that allows you to do is that you can post it in MLS and say all offers are due by Tuesday at 12 o'clock and must be submitted to this link. That way all of your offers on that property go to one location. So I said to this agent, I'm like, make sure, I said, having learned from this, that you go watch the Loop series, especially the class, and it's a 5-minute class on the Loop Easy Offer. And she called after and she's like, wow, that would have saved a huge headache. I'm going to do that on all of my transactions. So check out the Loop Easy Offer. That way, especially in this crazy market where potentially you're going to get a lot of offers on a property, you're not losing any by accident. And then you're putting it on the buyer agent to go put the information where it belongs, which is inside that link. Next, I wanted to talk about Redfin's unrepresented buyer model. If you haven't seen it, we posted yesterday a video that I recorded on, we shared it on the LAER Realty Facebook page, and it's like a 20+ minute training program for buyers on what they have to know about this unrepresented buyer model. So if you're not familiar with it, basically there's an Inman article that went out this week that said Redfin is testing out this new program. They happen to be testing it in the Boston marketplace, and what they're doing is they let sellers list a property on through Redfin, and as you know, Redfin's already a discount real estate company. The seller can list the property, and then they allow buyers to go put an offer direct through the property. In other words, they could save a buyer agent commission by not working with a buyer agent, so going direct to the seller. So I recorded a video on this for consumers. The reason I recorded it, by the way, is that on our LAER training, our LAER YouTube yet? We'll post it on our LAER YouTube this morning as well, so that you have a nice, easy link you can share with your customers if you have somebody that's asking about it. So that'll be on the LAER Realty YouTube station, which is for consumers, as opposed to this training YouTube station. So a couple things I want to say about this whole Redfin. Like, Redfin's pretty much in your face. Like, they have every week these new I would categorize it almost as like a gimmick, like to get people to pay attention. I had a great conversation with Tom Vargelitis, who does LAER 3D, which is our in-house photography, drone, and 3D tour company. And what Tom and I were talking about, like, if you've ever seen at like grand openings, or sometimes car companies do it on like President's Day, those big blow up tall plastic people with the wavy arms. And he's like, that is a gimmick to get people to like show up at your front door. And he's like, a lot of these companies, like not just Redfin, all kinds of companies do like these gimmicky things. And he's like, it's really no different than the wavy arm guy that is just trying to get somebody to come to your front door, and then we could sell them something. So I know many of our agents are like really freaked out by this. Is it going to change the industry? This is my belief in general, that if you show value, if you have value, yeah, you have nothing to worry about. So if you look back in history, any of the things that have great value, they tend to hold their value. And I had one conversation recently about this with an agent who said, well, this agent was trying to tell me that she personally always goes after like whatever the least expensive thing is. She's like, I would never, because I was using examples like, you know what, I drive a Porsche because I think a Porsche is a better value in my opinion than like say a Honda. So I said, there's always going to be people willing to pay more. I'm not about shoes. I think Jimmy Choo shoes are the best. I'm willing to pay for Jimmy Choo shoes. And I then said to her, she said, well, I would never pay, like she said, those are luxury items and that's different. And then I said, well, I still think there's a lot of things that are not necessarily luxury items. The first example I said was like Starbucks coffee or even Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Like you can make coffee in your house for pennies as compared to what it costs you to go buy a coffee. And what we know is like there's millions of Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, they keep popping up. They keep putting them closer and closer together, which tells us that there's a demand. People, regardless of the fact that they can just wake up and make their own coffee in their house, there's a demand for people that like to have it made for them. So, the other example I shared with this agent is bottled water. Talk about a massive industry. Interestingly, the price of a gallon of bottled water is like more expensive than gasoline, a gallon of gasoline. So interestingly, what I said to this agent is, I'm like, 'cause when I was having the conversation, that agent was drinking a bottled water. And I said, why didn't you buy a bottled water? Like, you can go get some water out of the tap. We all can. Water's free. And she's like, oh, I always buy bottled water. It's just easier. So I said, there's value. If there's value in something, people will tend to continue to buy it. And I also believe that there's a massive, massive, massive amount of value in a well-trained, well-educated buyer agent. What we know, having been in the industry for a while, is that whatever an unrepresented buyer, so the unrepresented buyer potentially through this Redfin program can save, let's just say it's 2.5% on, or at least that's what Redfin is leading them to believe, that you can save a couple of percent on your transaction by going into this unrepresented. What our message needs to be as an industry is that it costs most buyers way more than that to go into a transaction unrepresented. So I put together that video and basically said it's a training program for our consumers, saying here's all the value, the 8 pieces of massive value that a buyer agent brings to the table. They find red flags. So I talk about the fact that our buyer agents, where your average consumer might only get to tour 10 houses in their entire lifetime, our agents tour 10 houses a day. So they know what to look for: a leaky ceiling, mold in the crevices, a water line in the basement. That's the stuff that great real estate agents are trained to look for. And think about how costly those mistakes are if an unrepresented buyer doesn't realize that there was a light colored watermark showing that there had been a foot of water in the basement. So, I mean, that's way more than the 2% that they think they're saving if they go in and put an offer on a property that gets flooded with water. I talk about how great buyer agents do lots of research, like were permits pulled on the construction that was done or the finished basement. They look at the deed and what kind of easements are on the property. Great buyer agents do tons of MLS research. They do neighborhood research, see how much the property's worth as compared to other houses. They do market research, what's happening in the real estate market. Great buyer agents have a great team, an unbiased team. Interestingly, Redfin has their own mortgage company from what I've heard, and so they try to push the buyers to go to their mortgage company even though they're representing the seller of the property. A great buyer agent is also an emotional filter for the agent. How many times as a buyer agent have you talked to your buyers off a ledge, because they're so excited that they found the perfect house, they have to have it, we're going to pay $50,000 more than what it's on the market for. And you say, wait a minute, slow down, you're way overpaying, here's all the reasons why you should not do that. We are their emotional filter. We're the ones that say, hey, slow down a minute, let's make an educated decision on this. Great buyer agents have access to great inventory, and great buyer agents save time, money, and aggravation. Few things to think about. Number one, I recorded that program so that you have something you can share with consumers, but these are the messages that we need to get out to our consumers every day. I think those videos should come from you. I think you can take the message, chop it down into the pieces that you think are most important and do your own video messages and your own Facebook Lives and share that with your people in your community so that you become the face of that very important message. Number two, I like to remind people that if you've been in the business for a while, like I have been, and if you had experienced the last time the market was very hot like it is right now, and by the way, it won't last forever, but where we were the last time around this happened, there was a company called ISoldMyHouse.com. It is no different than everything that we're talking about. That was powered by a mortgage company. They were trying to siphon mortgage leads at the time. And I have no idea if they're in business, but they were huge 10 years ago. They had TV shows every Sunday. You'd drive down the street. They had the little boxes with magazines of all the ISoldMyHouse.com inventory. It's no different than what we're experiencing today with Redfin 1% signs down the highway and these gimmicks, these wavy arm guys to try to get potential consumers into their offices. All I would say, it is kind of gimmicky in the way I look at things. I'd also say that this is something that sticks in our heads because we're in the business. I think most educated consumers aren't interested in going onto a Redfin site and making an offer unrepresented. I think most consumers understand that potentially there's a great risk in doing that, and that the risk far exceeds whatever amount they're going to save in potential commission. And the other point that I make in that video, by the way, is that the National Association of Realtors has a statistic that says that the median price in the United States of a house that's listed with a real estate agent is $225,000. The median price of a house that sells unrepresented, so for sellers that don't use a real estate agent in the United States, the median price is $190,000. So basically, the National Association of Realtors statistics point towards the fact that sellers use real estate agents because they're going to make more money, somewhere around $35,000 on a median house. They're going to make about $35,000 more working with a real estate agent on a house than they would if they were to go it alone. What I point out in the unrepresented buyer video is that the inverse must be true as well. That unrepresented buyer, I would argue, is going to get $35,000 in value as well by working with somebody who has their best interests at heart. Just like a seller is getting $35,000 on average in value by working with a real estate agent. But importantly, like, that's the messaging that has to come from you guys. I do think it's great that we have a video. I encourage you to share it with your people, but I also want you to be the voice of your community. I want you to record your own videos and share that with your people. With that, we are 30 minutes in. We are getting out this week. If you are saw my post, all the women of LAER, in honor of Mother's Day, we got you a book called How to Relax. So we've been working on getting those out to the offices. If you don't have it already, we'll make sure you get it by next week. Thank you for joining me on our Friday mornings at 9.